What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are here for the Belgian Grand Prix, and straight away, as you can see, we have not gotten a contract offer from Red Bull to move up to the senior team, and it's slightly depressing to say the least. I was really looking forward to, maybe after the summer break getting a contract offer for Red Bull to step up for them and fight for some wins, as we've had some great performances so far this season and outperforming Pierre Gasly for quite a lot of it, but that's quite disappointing. But nonetheless, we'll power on as best we can. We've got a few upgrades going onto the car, and you can see on the chart there we're actually fourth in terms of car performance, so let's see what we can do around this circuit. We're actually going to have a look at our components. We're going to need to change some components very shortly, especially our gearbox, but here in practice we did struggle a little bit trying to get used to the car. You can see coming into the bus stop chicane, we're just going to lose the back end and it's completely spin around, and we're actually going to end up losing the back end and going into the wall. Almost luckily for us, we managed to make it, but as you can see we've got a different helmet as we start our lap, going the long way around the final corner as we get a nice little slingshot onto the start finish straight as we head into turn one, and try and make an impact on this qualifying session as best we can. Try and get up as high as possible. We've got a good engine. I think we've shown that for the most part. Our engine's not the strongest, but the drag is definitely something that works in our favour, and the way we have the wings set up definitely gets as much possible out of the performance of the car, especially during power. But you can see we're actually pretty hooked up all the way through the circuit here, hitting all the apexes that we need to, maybe over hitting the apex potentially, and overextending some of the curves. But coming across the line for our first lap, it puts us up into P3 behind Magnussen, but ahead of Devon Butler. But wasting no time, we're going to go return straight to garage and see where that puts us. But it puts us P15 at the moment. We go for our second run, we're already a second up, and that puts us into, I believe, potentially P5 for the end of the session. It does indeed. So we move through into Q2 with no dramas whatsoever, and we go to start our lap, and unfortunately it wasn't that great. P5 behind Vettel, but ahead of Magnussen for our first, where you can see instantly was already down, but we managed to claw some time back in on our lap time. You can see we're P11, so we're not quite currently through. We're a couple tenths up at the moment, nearly 3 tenths up, coming into the bus stop chicane. Got to try and maximise these corners as best as possible to try and make sure we get past Lance Shaw and whoever is ahead above us. You can see we're losing a little bit of time on the exit. We come through and we improve by quite a lot, nearly half a second, and it's unfortunately not good enough for Q3. We're in P11, and it's slightly depressed. And as you can see, and you'll probably tell, we have up the difficulty, and you can see 3/1000ths of a second behind our teammate, and we actually end up losing out a position there and not making the Q3, which is disappointing. But as I was saying, you've upped the difficulty again. Obviously after the last race, I feel like it's necessary. So we are still going through this career mode. We're in the second half of the season by now, and we're still having to up the difficulty even more so, just to try and find a balance and see how that's going to work. But nonetheless, you're going to crack on. We can do, but you can see matey with the cameraman there as he does an investigation of the safety car by the looks of it. But we do indeed actually have a Ferrari on pole position, which is amazing. We have a Ferrari in P2, so the Ferrari is doing an absolute solid job by the looks of it. Obviously Sebastian Vettel on pole, as it's the number 5 car there to the left hand side. We have got, I believe that's Sergio Perez. Looking at the helmet, it's got number 11 on it. It's definitely Perez. But we're going to have a look at the grid and see how it forms up. Obviously ourselves really disappointed we couldn't actually make it into Q3, being knocked out. Like I said, Ferrari 1-2, Vettel ahead. It's actually quite weird because Vettel's on the right hand side for the grid, but nonetheless, Verstappen P3, Bottas 4th, Sergio Perez 5, Weber in P6, Albon 7th, Raikkonen 8th, Devon Butler, and then ourselves in P10. Ricardo Magnussen took a grid penalty, so realistically we probably could have got through if you know about that. George Russell P15, Gasly P16, absolutely shocker, and then P20, Lewis Hamilton. I don't think I actually showed this, but he just set an abysmal lap time and he just didn't qualify. He didn't have a penalty, he just didn't qualify fast enough. So yeah, Robert Kubica legitimately beat Hamilton on a lap time. On the way to the grid, you can see Max Verstappen's helmet for this Grand Prix, the orange Dutch helmet, as is the closest he has to a home Grand Prix. Ready for the lights to go out here for the Belgium Grand Prix. Love this track, and we are underway straight away. We've got Butler to the right, we've got Ricardo behind us, who's absolutely just steamrolled us off the start. We are on the soft compound tyres, so we're going to be going very long. We've got a car to the inside. I believe that's Russell, who's dived down our inside like an absolute madman. We're going to bang tyres there with Devon Butler as we go all the way down towards Eau Rouge. It's going to be difficult. We do manage to get ahead of Devon, but don't worry about going side by side. Coming up through Radion, we've got a little bit of sideways on the exit there, but Ricardo's going to look like he's going to be our mill. Weber going very slowly. Perez also looking very slowly. So we are making so many gains. Our teammate Albon into P5, and then we're going to try and go around the outside of Perez here, if possible, making sure we can miss our teammate. We get the job done there on Sergio Perez. And Toro Rosso 5-6. That's absolutely mental, obviously, for the fact that Hamilton and Gasly are so far behind. But, you know, we've got to try and make as much gains as possible. The ride height on Alexander Albon's car is really low, just like ourselves. So he's copying ourselves a little bit. Probably explains his little bit of pace there. So you can see we're going side by side through the bus stop chicane. We're on the outside, which gets better traction down to the start-finish straight. We do get a position on our teammate. We're trying to hold that off as best as possible. And Verstappen, I believe he has some kind of damage. He's going quite slowly in comparison to the Mercedes and obviously ourselves. You can see how quick we're catching him. We're all over the road. Yeah, we're still catching him. We leave it so last second to move to the left hand. So we open our DRS and we've actually passed both Red Bulls. We're ahead of both Red Bulls currently. And it'll be interesting to see if our teammate can actually get that job done. But on the minimap, it looks like he's been passed by one of the Renaults. You can see Verstappen actually comes back at us. Didn't really expect that, especially, you know, before Blanchimont and stuff like that. But coming into the bus stop chicane, we're going to have to go all the way around the outside here. Actually going to let him take the inside line. We're going to try and get a cut back. And again, another over move. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out for us that time. But we obviously do have the DRS. And we'll have the DRS at the top of the long, I guess you kind of call it back straight. But we're going to have such a big advantage on Verstappen. We obviously saw last lap the advantage we have on Verstappen. It was obviously at this point his tyres are starting to get very worn. Obviously us being on the harder compound, our tyres aren't wearing out nowhere near as much. So come through Rouge onto Radion, and not as close as we was, definitely not by any means. We've actually got to worry about Sergio Perez, who is looking very feisty in that Mercedes engine. He moves halfway through the track, was kind of threw me off a little bit. We managed to go around him, and Sergio Perez doesn't actually manage to get the job done. So he's just behind him. We move up into P4. There is a yellow flag not too far behind us, and that is a car that is obviously going very slowly, and obviously got some damage and happened to retire the car. Kimi Räikkönen is the man himself who is obviously out, but Verstappen does fancy a look at us before we get into Eau Rouge, and definitely at the top of the sill. He's going to try and mount a challenge as best we can. We're looking at all the stuff here and trying to see if we can find out what the fastest lap is and see what we can do. But Verstappen with DRS open, he's actually not made as much gains as we have, so we've definitely got lower wings. He does dive down the inside in true Verstappen style. We do manage to hold on to that position, and then everyone who is on the soft compound tyre does start to make their pit stops. Charles Leclerc, who was leading the race, he actually got past Sebastian Vettel, is now on the medium tyres, of course, which makes perfect sense. On to lap 10, you can see we're overtaking Vettel for the lead of the race, not the net lead. We'll still be fighting Perez and Verstappen when it comes to it. But lap 30, you can see Leclerc is caught up to us quite a bit. We're just running our own race, obviously on a different strategy altogether. But coming into the pit lane, Valtteri Bottas in P3, fighting with Sebastian Vettel for second and third, what is now obviously we're going to drop down behind them. So interesting to see where we come out in relevance to Verstappen and Perez, as well as Hamilton. Hamilton's actually caught up to the back of Perez and Verstappen. You can see Verstappen's come across the start-finish line now, and it's going to be very tight. I don't think we're going to be able to stay out ahead of him. Looks like we might lose the position to Perez, definitely, and Hamilton as well. So we're going to have to try and do the best we can on these super soft tyres to see you know, what we can do. But Hamilton, we actually end up bottling the exit because we were too focused on Hamilton. But yeah, so Hamilton actually got the jump on us as well as Perez and good old Maxi boy. But Hamilton is stuck behind the Force India or Racing Point, whatever you prefer to call it. But coming up through to the top of the hill, you can see our car is really lively on the super soft tyres with open DRS, and we're actually going to get a double slipstream here on Perez and Hamilton. Hamilton will go to the left, we'll go to the right, Perez in the middle. We're going to squeeze him on the inside. You go purple in sector 1, and we get the move done on both of the Mercedes powered cars. We're overtaking Mercedes powered cars on straights, which is absolutely mental. We're lap 15. Still got quite a bit to go in this race. We've got about 7 laps, and Verstappen does look like he's there for the taking. We're locking up a little bit here. As you can see, we've gone purple sector 1 and sector 2. So this should be the fastest lap of the race. Obviously, fortunate for us being on the softest compound tyre, are actually making moves and actually getting such better purchase of traction out of these corners than the guys. We carry a bit more minimum apex speed as well, but we're in pursuit of Max Verstappen. He's quite a bit ahead, but we know we've got the advantage of him in a straight line just to our wing setup. He's honestly, he might as well have 11 wings because he's struggling so much in a straight line. You can see how far back we are, and we're just closing so damn fast on Verstappen. He's going to go to the inside. We're going to dart to the inside to block off that move. We give him a little bit of a squeeze before we make the braking zone, but we do get ahead of Maxi Verstappen there. But at this point in the race, I was starting to struggle a little bit. The tyres started to go off quite a bit, and you can see not that long to go. You can see we're all over the track on the exit there, and we are just slowly starting to lose some time to Verstappen. We did build a little bit of a buffer, but you know, we can't quite catch Vettel, who's in P3, and obviously Bottas in P2. But Verstappen, again, like I said, he's looking very punchy, and I can't imagine he's very happy that there's a Toro Rosso ahead of him for P4. So we go up through the hill, and you can see our ERS is very low. Our brakes freezing cold at this point. We're going to make Verstappen go to the outside. We'll hold the inside line as best we can. Move to the left. See if we can actually break the slipstream. And he's actually going to try and dive it down the inside. Same as last time. I'm going to hold it all the way around the outside. It's not going to compromise us too much. We bang tyres as we actually fight here on the last lap with Verstappen. We wasn't going to let that position go any time soon. So we just absolutely just dive down the inside. We put a throttle down and we bang tyres perfectly. Otherwise, that could have caused some damage. But it doesn't mean Verstappen is going to give up anytime soon. If anything, it might make him a little bit more aggressive. Want to get past us, as we've shown. We're not going to move over just because you're in a Red Bull there, Maxi. But yeah, on the final lap, you can see we're all over the road a little bit. Our ERS is pretty low. Our fuel's pretty low. And Verstappen's going to try and make a move here into one of the fastest corners on the track. We managed to just squeeze him out a little bit there. We go wide off the circuit. And that could actually hinder Verstappen to Hamilton as well as Perez. I believe Hamilton is ahead of Perez at this point, so Perez is hanging on to the back of Hamilton, and if Hamilton can pounce on Verstappen, we might get in a little bit of trouble there with Helmut Marko for not letting Verstappen go. But at the same time, you know, we want a P4. We deserve. We've grinded this race out on these tyres. We've been absolutely phenomenal pace on these super soft tyres. On the you know, the mediums not so much, but you can see Verstappen is in our toe. It's going to come down to the very last corner, I believe. If he does get a good exit here, we're going to go all the way to the left hand side, and which is quite, you know, contrary to what you normally get. We go down the middle of the track because we saw Hamilton try and make a move. We go deep pretty easily. We get a little bit of a nudge from Max, hold through the last corner, kind of come down the start finish straight. Hamilton can't get the traction. Verstappen going to hold on to P5, and ourselves, we are going to hold on to that P4 position. We couldn't have done any better that race. The Mercedes of Bottas and the two Ferrari cars of Leclerc and Vettel were just on another planet. Obviously a new helmet if you hadn't already noticed that. But Mattia Binotto celebrating for what is the first race win of the season for car number 16. Charles Leclerc gets his first race win of the season, and it's been a very long time coming. He has deserved so many races by this point, but he actually, you know, he does actually get the job done. So fair play to Charles Leclerc. He will be over the moon with that, and obviously will the rest of Ferrari. Devon Butler P10 getting a points paying position. Verstappen obviously, you know, giving us a good little fight there. But coming onto the podium now, you will see Charles Leclerc as well as his engineer Sebastian Vettel and Bottas. Bottas actually splitting the Ferraris, so well done to Valtteri Bottas for doing that. Vettel, you know, not very content with that. I don't believe Vettel's actually won a race. He might have done. My memory isn't that great, but Leclerc, just top step of the podium. He's going to be absolutely buzzing with that, celebrating with Bottas and obviously Sebastian Vettel. Special moment here in Formula 1 when you get your first race victory, and something that Charles Leclerc will certainly save up for a very long time. But there's the full-time results. Hamilton did finish ahead of Perez, Ricciardo in P8, George Russell again in the points. So George Russell's doing absolute bits. Butler in P10. Unfortunately, our teammate didn't quite make it there, which is a bit disappointing, considering we were 5th and 6th at one point in the race. But you can see our rival is actually getting pretty close to Gasly as well as Alexander Albon. So we are slowly closing in on Gasly, who also had an absolutely shocking race. We should have definitely got that call up to Red Bull. I'm not sure why we didn't, but we'll just have to be patient. You know, we might get the call soon for the end of the season. If not, then I would definitely expect that we get it. And next year we'll actually go down a reputation with Red Bull for making contact with Verstappen at the end there. But there isn't much we can really do about that. You know, we was fighting for position, and I'm pretty sure Max wouldn't want us to actually give up the position either. So, you know, it was good fair battling as far as I'm concerned. But Weber obviously there in the press talking about us, how we did. Same with Devon Butler. Devon Butler's actually, you know, gotten quite courteous, I guess you could say, to what he says in the press clippings about us as about anything really. But you know, it's always nice to see what our rivals from F2 do think about us, and you know, if we can ever shed some light on them, then obviously, you know, that's always pretty handy as well. But absolutely amazing drive there. We've got another chassis upgrade coming soon, but given the circumstances of where we are in the season with the inevitable rule change that always does seem to come, we're going to have to try and save as much R&D points, because I believe from if it goes by the last few games, you can actually take that through to Red Bull with ourselves. So if we do get to go to Red Bull, we are going to just absolutely just upgrade the engine to high heaven, and we'll be definitely the fastest car on the grid. That engine's the only thing that's holding the Red Bull back, definitely by far. But nonetheless, you can see, we look at the standards here, and in actual fact, Sebastian Vettel does actually have a race win. He got it in Austria, so that's not the first race win for Ferrari by any means, but it's getting quite close in the championship between the two Ferrari drivers. But ourselves, we need to make some adjustments here to our power unit. You know, considering we have a bit of damage, we're definitely going to need to see what we can do and maybe tour around with a few things for the Italian Grand Prix, which is probably more powertrain circuit, just for the pure fact of all the long straights, the back straights and stuff like that. But that's been it for this video, guys. If you have enjoyed, please do slap a like on this video. If you're new around here, please sub to Formula 1 content every other day. We haven't missed a video yet since the first upload, but next race will be Italy, and I'm really looking forward to that race. But that's been it for me, guys. Until next video, take care and bye bye.